Hi everyone, Darren Hunter here, and with the Outsourced PM podcast show. Michael, you just got back from the UK working with virtual assistant clients over there. How was your trip and how are you feeling? How's that jet lag going?
The jet lag is epic this time around, but when you come back and you've got the kids you got to look after and run the household, this time around, Kat's normally fantastic with that, but as you know, she's in recovery. UK was amazing, Darren. Talk about property management industry that is severely in need of assistance to grow and build their business and work on their customer service even more. And as we've said it before, the customer service level in the UK is far superior to how they do it in Australia, but they are lacking systems, procedures, and the back end. They're very good at communication. As opposed to here, I find in Australia, New Zealand, the customer service is typically lacking, but the systems and procedures are far superior.
All right. Well, today is a good topic, and I think we've planned these topics very carefully. We've covered getting virtual assistants to process tenancy applications, and we discussed they're about an hour, up to an hour per application. If a property manager is doing 4, 5, or 6 a week, that's huge. That's a lot of time saving there to take off property managers. So if they're getting all of that information collected for them, and all they have to do is look at that collected information and make a qualified decision based on that information. So they're now spending 5 minutes on the application instead of an hour. You can clearly see the time, the time saving there. And last podcast, Michael, we did taking after hours calls. My goodness me, aren't we hearing so much crisis out there? And with that article that was done recently, where they surveyed 770 property managers, whom 23% said that they are planning to resign because they're burnt out. It really can't be ignored that bosses, you've got to get serious about taking after hours calls off your property managers. Otherwise, they are just gonna burn out. I know a lot of people go, oh, we offer 24/7 service, but there's only so much of that is sustainable before the property manager or their life partner says enough is enough. And so taking after hours calls. We also touched on repairs and maintenance as well, or maybe that's an episode that's still yet to come. But let's talk about leasing today. So leasing is the most time-consuming process about all the procedures. If we added them all up, Michael, routine inspections, lease renewals, chasing late rent, the vacate business, about 18 big core processes and procedures in property management. However, the leasing procedure or letting, depends on what country you're from, is the most time consuming. And I remember doing a time and motion study with officers and, with drive time going to properties, showing people through. Now, of course, in America, our American friends use a lot of lock boxes, but in Australia, New Zealand, we personally show people through properties, with all the drive time and all the travel and all the application processing and all the signing up of the tenant, all that. It's around about 10 to 12 hours per property. And just before I hand things over to you, Michael, I had a call a couple of days ago from a person in Brisbane that was secret shopping their competitors. And what they did is they went to, the big rental market, rental property marketing portal that we all know about. And she put 42 inquiries on rental properties as a tenant, potential tenant, to her competitors. 19 of them, or 19 inquiries came back on 19 properties out of the 42 properties that she inquired on. Michael, that tenants are always complaining that they're not getting any feedback or calls from property managers when they make an inquiry on a rental property.
I think that a lot of property managers just assume the property is going to rent. So if the person, the prospect doesn't turn up to an inspection, then they just flat out miss out because the property is going up online and they're renting really fast in this market. But one of the biggest mistakes agents could make is ignoring their future prospective tenant. Because as we know, there's so many tenants out there that also own property, and they might be moving out of their property in the area. They might be, investors, and they see that property managers are not calling them back. I've inquired about 10 properties. Only 2 people have called me back. I didn't get this because there was 50 people at the property, 30 applications. You've got a core database there of people that are inquiring that you can educate. You can find other alternate properties for, but also letting them know, hey, Darren, unfortunately, we don't have any more properties at the moment, but I'll keep you posted if something else comes up. That makes a huge difference in customer service and the relations. I think also, and I've seen this in agencies, leasing is like an expected time loss. People don't really realize how much time it takes, as you've said, but people don't realize how much time it does take. Small to medium agencies. So let's say you've got an agency and they're a solo operator and they've got a few properties on the go and they're getting 40 applications coming in on properties, 100 or 1,000 emails that are coming through, which is quite possible. They can't maintain that, and they're only dealing with the path of least resistance. And so they're burning like 90% of people that are inquiring on their properties. And again, it's that silent killer. So I don't know why so many agencies are neglecting this. And, that study that you're referring to, that's huge. That's insane that people aren't responding.
But it's normal, Michael. It's just normal. And if you go to any property manager and say, this tenant is upset because no one has got back to them, the response would be, I haven't got time for that. There's too many inquiries coming through. I can't deal with it. And then that's accepted by the real estate boss as well. That's just the way things are. Because I think there's another thing now coming in, which is that tenants are still that second-rate citizen. And there's that mixed in it too. And you're right, the tenants are the future. They are your future, and they'll remember how they've been treated when it comes to buying a rental property, or even just talking to other people around, hey, don't rent with such and such because I inquired and no one got back to me.
Yeah, I mean, we have a number of clients, Darren, where we actually run their leasing process. Right. And, some fairly large agencies too, and some smaller agencies that don't have leasing agents at all, where they've just got property managers who are doing kind of everything. And for us, how that works is we take and receive all the phone calls that are coming in about properties that are up for rent. Everyone that is online, we take that inquiry. We also take all the email inquiries. So if you've got a number of properties up online and you're getting 1,000 emails or 100 emails, people inquiring, we respond to that. We communicate with them. We try to book them in to the inspections. If there's videos, floor plans, virtual tours, we send that to the prospect so that they're getting the ability to view the property one way or another. What that is doing for our clients, Darren, that is taking hours and hours and hours of just grunt work from the office, which means that when they go to do the actual physical inspections, a lot of people are pre-qualified or they know more information about the property, and they haven't had to spend the time, invest that time in handling that inquiry. But the person who's inquiring is getting a response, they're getting customer service, and they think that business is, wow, okay, they're responsive. I can deal with that company. They helped me with this. They sent me that. They got floor plans, going above and beyond. Agencies don't have the time to do that anymore.
So, Michael, I think that's huge. Certainly taking all of the call inquiries, all the email inquiries around the leasing procedure. It certainly is a brag situation too. If you're with a prospective client to say, we have team members specifically just to take these inquiries. We know our competitors don't have any of that. We're always constantly hearing of tenants that get zero response. But let me just, for a minute, I need to put my old school property manager hat on here, Michael, and throw a rock at you. If these inquiries are coming in and phone call inquiries are coming in, and a virtual assistant, of course, you use, in your case, people from the Philippines, how does that come across on the phone? How does their accent, or how do they know about the rental property and answer basic questions and things like that? Because any person that's been in property management a while right now, listening to this podcast, this is what's going through their mind. They've already got a problem with what you've just said.
Got to remember, Darren, that a lot of the information that people are looking for on a property is online. So if there's a video there, there's a description of the property, there's photos. So not too much reinforcement has to actually occur other than what's on the advert already. People are calling up to book in an inspection, follow up an application, see when is it available, ask if there's any other properties that are similar to that. So being able to respond to those questions is really, really easy because we know what properties are available. We meet with the property managers. The property managers let us know about the area. We research the area. We do Google Street Maps. We can see what house is next door, across the road, what schools are nearby. But again, people are asking simple questions and it's really easy to accommodate that. I guess a unique selling point of difference, Darren, is that I guess the clients that we work with, they can guarantee to their landlords that they respond to 100% of the inquiries that come through on the property. Agencies they can't quote those numbers. I mean, no. With our book, right, with our rent roll, we had all the virtual tours. I could guarantee that 100% of the people that inquired about our properties could see it one way, shape, or another. Other agencies couldn't do that. They were sporadic with their virtual tours. They didn't have videos. They had, really sparkly images and everything. But again, having my team be able to take the phone call, send the virtual tour, send a video walkthrough, send the floor plan. We saved hours and hours and hours every week.
This level of service for prospective tenants, Michael, is unheard of. And yet that survey that I brought to your attention at the start of the program here, out of 42 properties that were inquired on, only 19 were received. It's very sad, but regretfully very acceptable in our industry. And what you're talking about is fairyland.
I would challenge the people listening to this podcast to do an audit on their own inquiries, right? And let us know. So of the inquiries that come through, can you guarantee 100% of those inquiries are responded to? At what capacity? And the other thing too, Darren, where we hear the frustration are the canned automated replies. So you go onto those booking systems where people can book the viewings, and then the property manager just kind of goes to the database in the back, selects all the inquiries, and just sends one message: leased. There's no follow-up. There's no, sorry, this is leased. Is there any other property that I can help you with? Have you found another property yet? But that comes down to time and resources, Darren. A lot of agencies don't have leasing agents, leasing managers that are just dedicated to give that time. They have the property managers doing the full end-to-end, which I think is fine in itself. But again, they just have not got the time. And if they're spending too much time on this, they're neglecting time on the owners and the customer service and the income-producing roles that they should be doing. Having a virtual assistant act as that leasing agent, right? The coordinator, the guru, the person who can guarantee customer service and that all your prospects are responded to, they get the information they want. That's a world of difference, and that's affordable. We're seeing crazy wage hikes at the moment because unskilled workers in real estate are demanding, high levels of wages, what a 10-year plus property manager would be commanding, and agencies can't afford that anymore. Right? Everyone wants to work from home. This is where it's changing.
Michael, I recall a conversation I had with Paul from Essex, and Paul talked about his phone calls, or the phone numbers on their property marketing portals went directly to their VAs. So the actual letting line itself, the number went directly to the VAs. That's pretty scary to suggest that to Australians, but how did that work for Paul, and how is that relieved? What are some of the things that you're seeing that have been relieved in his business with the leasing staff doing, your virtual assistants doing that work?
I'll start it with this. Every client that we are doing like this process for, our number that we assign to that client is used on the portals in the UK, in Australia, in New Zealand, and we take the direct contact away from the office and they call us. Right? Same with the email inquiry too. So when people are going through that process, it's not a case of like, where am I calling? Like, we never, ever, ever get that question because people are wanting to get a question resolved. And, all these countries are very multicultural, accents are accepted. It's when they're not getting response. It's when they're not getting the feedback and a reply to their question is when they start to raise concern, irrespective of if they're in the country or in another country. People get frustrated, if they're not getting what they're trying to find out. Paul, that's been a great example of trust where, like Rightmove and On the Market, these platforms over there, people just press the button like on their phone or on their desktop, their smartphone, and it comes straight through to us. Right? And we are that company. We're not another company, and we're not saying we're another company. We are that company. We're that person. So,
okay. So a real estate boss has given you a call, Michael, and said, all right, let's give this a go because my team is so swamp busy. This is wearing them down. You've taken over the leasing side of things with the phone call communication, with the email communication. What are some of the tangible things or benefits are they experiencing within the first week, first month? What are they saying? What's the feedback?
The first and most obvious is time back in the office. So there's been a massive reduction in phone calls that's coming through. You've got companies that have got reception-based models. So the calls are going down and they're able to help and communicate with their current clients, right? I think that's probably the biggest value proposition is that all of this communication is now stopped coming into the office. It's all being resolved, handled. They can see the results, more people being booked into properties, more qualified questions are being answered. And the property managers and the admin support staff internally are now able to do their job. Like people don't realize how much time this takes up.
So it's just cleared the air for them and they've taken all this eroding work off them. That's just this mundane, lots and lots of little things, and it allows them to just focus on the high productivity tasks.
And that's it. So someone who, virtual assistant who's running this task for an agency, that's not a cost. That's a pure investment because the alternate use of that time is income producing. Right? You're talking about how did we rent our property so fast? How did we make sure that we had so many eyes on our properties and the inquiry levels that we had? Because we were able to respond. And again, 84 suburbs, 3 different states. We had a lot of different phone calls. We had a lot of email inquiries coming through. We were able to respond to them.
I think that's awesome. So again, with my old school property manager hat on again, and I want to throw something else at you. How can virtual assistants know about the rental property? How can they field the bulk of inquiry and questions and silly little queries that, has it got a full bath, or all those things that tenants will ask, prospective tenants will ask? How can all of those little queries and questions be answered by a virtual assistant in another country that's never worked in property management before? How is all that possible?
Well, a majority of the property managers out there haven't been in the industry for that long a time either, especially the leasing agents too. But that said, regular communication. So a property is going to come up online, communication with the actual office saying, this is the property. It's got half a bath, it's shower of a bath, it's floorboards, carpets, all the information that is needed. As is, it'd be like the same someone in the office. Darren, I need you to man the leasing line for me today. This is a rundown of the property. This is what it has. Now, if there's a question that we don't know, we don't make it up. We answer what we can and say, look, let me give you a call back in the next 15 minutes and I'll come back to you on that. Right? Once that question's asked once on a property, it doesn't need to be referred back to again because we know it. Right? But a lot of properties that come up online with agencies, the person dealing with that doesn't know to that extent because they may never have seen it before because it's been rented for so long, or it's a new property they haven't been inside it yet. So people are forgiving.
Yeah.
Act as is,
But I think for you to say that every inquiry was dealt with, I don't think there's one agent out there that I know could actually say that every tenant got back to on any query or anything they put on the rental marketing portal. There is a lot of query from tenants that just falls through the gaps. And I just want to encourage everyone, don't accept that as acceptable. It's not. But okay, so we've talked about taking inquiry by phone. We talked about taking inquiry by email, and the virtual assistants can take clearly the weight off the property manager's back or the leasing manager or whatever. But how can they get involved with appointment management and people wanting to have a look through properties and all of that work? Now, there's a big online booking service that people can use in Australia. It's been around for a number of years. Doesn't that sort out that problem? Shouldn't, why do virtual assistants need to be involved with that if that online booking service sorts everything out?
Yeah, I think it definitely did sort everything out for a long period of time, but it became the norm and expected. And what we realized was that, people would book it online. You would tell that program what your diary allocation is for the week, okay? And then it would automatically allow people to book into those times. And people would do that, and they would book into a number of different properties, and then they wouldn't turn up because they would have seen another property. But then the platforms would then start sending text messages out saying, hey, can you please confirm yes or no if you're going to be turning up to the property inspection today? They worked for a little bit, but people would get that message from so many different places. They would forget which place sent them that message that they are going to turn up, and they still wouldn't turn up. So like Darren, what we implemented was, yes, those messages went out, but we called people before the inspections. Hey, it's Michael from, TBD Realty. We have an inspection on today. I'm going to be driving 45 minutes to meet you, just confirming you're still going to come. Otherwise, we can reschedule. Right? The apps don't allow that to happen. We had a text message that also went out, Darren, with a video message saying, letting people know, because in the absence of a human interaction, people found that it was repetitious and they became complacent with booking systems like that. It was just other people would have been turning up. I didn't think I would have to turn up. But those agencies that are driving an hour away or half an hour away, or it's not just 15 minutes of travel time, it's the preparation, the lead up, getting the key ready, getting in the car. It's, that 15-minute inspection is like an hour. So the assistant would call up. Hey, Darren, just confirming, 1 o'clock today, we're going to be leaving our office around 12:30. If I haven't heard from you by 12:30, look, I'm not going to get in the car. I need to confirm that, you're actually going to turn up. Right? And it just changes it. You get hours back, even just that simple technique, right? Following up the bookings. And again, people listening to this have got smaller agencies and quite large agencies. This gives you back hours. Hours.
Absolutely. All right. So we've talked about taking phone inquiries. We've talked about email inquiries and fielding all of those. And look, I think, Michael, we can all agree, real estate is booming. We're getting so many tenants applying on properties. It is disheartening for tenants at the moment. That'll change. It will get to a situation where some properties are going to be hard to lease. This sort of thing is going to really matter, that every inquiry is captured and dealt with professionally, and tenants are given the respect that they're due. We've talked about online booking systems don't capture everything. They don't. There's a lot of things that still fall through the gaps. An online booking system isn't going to manage everything, and we do need a person still involved, but a virtual assistant's a really good solution here. Instead of using boots on the ground, which are we can put those resources elsewhere. They are very, very expensive as well. The next cab off the rank that I'm thinking, with my old school property manager hat on, Michael, is, the next step, which is getting them to application stage. And getting them the application, and I don't have anyone to help me fill this in, or I've got a question on my application, or will the landlord accept this, by the way, can you ask, or all these little things that we can't ignore. We may not have time to deal with them, but we can't ignore. How do virtual assistants fill that gap of getting that tenant to the application stage so we can get an application submitted?
Yeah, so one of the steps that our team take, we do that follow-up. So once an inspection's been completed, if there's an app that the property manager's using to leave notes, hey, this person wants to apply, send them the application form, or this person has some questions around schools in the area or whatever it is, we then do that follow-up. We call them and say, hey, Darren, how'd you go at the property the other day? I see you were looking to make an application. How are you going with that? Can we help you in any way? And we get those questions, and we help push the person along to that application process. So that's where bridging the gap is. And then the add-on from there is, we can do the application processing. Now, yes, there are some systems and software out there now that someone applies and automatically privacy pages get sent out to property managers in the hope that they'll do reference checks for them. And Dan, I've said this before, this blows my mind. I mean, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, and beyond, property managers were saying, I could never have a virtual assistant do reference checks for me because they're not picking up the pregnant pauses. They don't understand the tone of the phone call. But yet there are so many property managers out there hiding behind these systems that send out the privacy pages and the questions, the reference questions, and they're relying on that as a reference. So there's no excuse now for property managers to say, oh, how are they going to pick up the pregnant pause? Our guys pick up the phone and call people and listen. Hey, Darren, what was Dennis like as a tenant? Oh, yeah, he was okay. An email reply is, Dennis was like, yeah, good. Rent on time, yes. Property in good condition, yes.
There's a lot more information in that phone call that needs to be explored, and we need to go deeper.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and place for email communication and everything. But again, you're looking at the quality of your rent roll is directly linked to the application process and the people you're showing your property through to.
It is everything. The whole quality and future of your business rests on this leasing procedure, everything.
And, the whole application process, Darren, that's a whole other episode.
And we'll talk about that. And it is, we've already covered people out there, look at go and find our episode on virtual assistants processing applications. That's a whole discussion in itself, which I really encourage you to go and have a listen to. I think this is really challenging old school mindsets though, Michael, because, it's certainly, as an old school property manager myself, I've got lots of questions about, what about this? What about that? And hang on, a virtual assistant, but you've been there, you've done it, you've proven it, you're doing it over and over again. You've got high quality, high caliber property management agencies and virtual assistants are working with right now who swear by what you're doing. So you're overcoming all of those objections, really, really well.
I think too, Darren, that we're talking in a general sense around a virtual assistant being able to step in and do these tasks. When dealing with our company, we specialize in property management. We specialize in real estate. So we understand the leasing process. We understand the maintenance, the arrears. We understand what works. I can understand people going on this journey alone, finding their own virtual assistant, trying to do their own training. That can be cumbersome and tiring. But we have a whole team that your virtual assistant can ask questions to, right? Because we have people doing this day in, day out.
And I know you got really good at it because you had the 650 properties in Melbourne. You only had 1.5 staff on the ground. So you must have had an amazing leasing procedure carried by your virtual assistants in an intricate system that just works to be able to successfully manage all of those lettings that happened, as you said, actually spread over 84 suburbs. And your leasing performance was far quicker and far better and far more effective than the actual local rivals in that area where you were quite a distance away from. Certainly congratulations to you for nailing this formula and making it work. And so I think we need to wrap this podcast up, Michael, but if people are interested in talking to you about getting virtual assistants involved around this leasing inquiry, because they recognize that tenants are being serviced right, the phone calls aren't being returned, the emails aren't being returned, and accepting that this is now not acceptable, what can people do to reach out to you, Michael, to have a chat to you?
Easiest way would be go to teamsbydesign.com and just go contact us, and you'll be able to book in a time for a quick chat, and we can go over any of the tasks you've got and see how we can help you.
Yep, cool. All right, well, thanks everyone, and take care.
Bye.